I now give the floor to His Excellency Lok Bahadur Thapa, Chair of Delegation of Nepal.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my honor to address this august assembly. At the outset, allow me to extend my warm greetings from Nepal, the land of Sagarmatha, that is Mount Everest, the highest mountains in the world, and the birthplace of Lord Buddha, the apostle of peace and compassion. I congratulate Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock on her elections as the President of the 80th sessions of the General Assembly. I assure her of Nepal's full support. I also extend our appreciation to Secretary General Antonio Guterres for his steadfast leadership in these challenging times. Mr. President, first let me share about the recent political developments in Nepal. Earlier this month, Nepali youth, particularly Gen Z, took to the street with a clear and compelling voice for change. Their call was not for narrow interest, but for a nation built on the pillars of good governance, transparent, accountable, and responsive to the people. They demanded efficient public service, into corruption, an equitable society, justice for all, and dignified job opportunities for the youth. It was a resounding reminder that the aspirations of the generations are nothing less than a fair, just, and prosperous Nepal. In the Gen Z movement, we saw unfortunate violence that claimed lives and left deep scars in our society. Many government buildings were reduced to ashes. An interim government has been formed to steer Nepal's political directions at this critical moment. For the first time in its history, Nepal is led by a woman as Prime Minister, herself a former Chief Justice. General elections have been slated for the 5th of March 2026. This will mark another step in strengthening our democracy through fresh mandates of the sovereign people. Building our institutions, restoring trust, and healing our society will take time, resources, and solidarity. Excellencies, truly Nepal stands at a historical crossroads, and we know that the only viable road ahead of us is that of the road to peace, democracy, and inclusive development. We are determined to continue our democratic journey, and we appreciate goodwill and continued support from the international community as we move forward in these directions. Mr. President, the world itself stands at a crossroads. Peace is in peril. Militarization is mounting. Development is drifting. And the climate crisis is culminating. We have seen commitments unmet and promises unkept. In this context, the theme of this sessions, Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development, and human rights, couldn't be more relevant. Mr. President, for 80 years, the United Nations has served as a common foundation for multilateralism, a foundation upon which all nations, big and small, developed and developing, stand equal and forge common solutions. For 80 years, our organization has remained a beacon of hope. Hope for peace, hope for shared prosperity, hope for equity, justice, freedom, and human rights, and hope for the rule-based international order. And today, as crisis converge from climate catastrophe to widening inequality, from digital disruption to violent conflicts, that beacon must shine brighter than ever. It is time to renew our collective resolve to fortify the founding values of the United Nations. Mr. President, Nepal attaches profound enduring value to the United Nations. The UN Charter is bedrock of our foreign policy. It is a compass that guides our actions on the global stage. This reflects Nepal's enduring belief in multilateralism, international cooperation, and global solidarity, the principles that define who we are as a nation. And this year marks 70 years since Nepal joined the United Nations. For 7 decades, Nepal has consistently stood by the United Nations, contributing to global peace and stability, advocating for the rule-based international order, promoting equitable and sustainable economic development, particularly for the upliftment of the least developed countries and the landlocked developing countries, and upholding human dignity and justice. Today, Nepal proudly stands as the largest contributing country. Our highly professional peacekeepers have served with a deep sense of duty to secure peace and stability in the conflict-ridden parts of the world. Nepal remains a steadfast advocate for complete and general disarmament. The lasting peace and safer world depends on the reductions of all weapons, conventional and emerging alike. Nepal strongly condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, which stands for peace, security, and the protections of innocent lives everywhere. As the chair of the Global Coordination Bureau of the least developed countries, Nepal is leading the group to ensure equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development guided by the spirit of no one is left behind. As co-facilitator of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, held in Sevilla, Spain, Nepal contributed to advancing key priorities, catalyzing investment for sustainable development, addressing the debt crisis, reforming the international financial architecture, and revitalizing multilateral cooperations. Nepal is deeply honored to serve as the President of the Economic and Social Council this session. We thank the member states for their trust. As the President of the ECOSOC, I am deeply committed under the motto of delivering better, to bring coherence, to bring credibility, and to bring measurable impact to the Council's work. As a member of the Peacebuilding Commission, Nepal is deeply committed to supporting inclusive, nationally owned, and locally driven peacebuilding process. Mr. President, the world today faces challenges of profound gravity and urgency. Many parts of the world are witnessing protracted crises. War is raging relentlessly in Ukraine. Suffering is deepening in Gaza, where civilians bear the heaviest toll. We support a two-state solution where Israel and Palestine coexist peacefully and securely with internationally recognized borders in line with the relevant United Nations resolutions. Nepal is deeply concerned about the innocent civilians held hostage by Hamas. We call for the immediate release of Bipin Joshi, a Nepali student who has been held hostage by Hamas since October 7, 2023. Excellencies, crises in Sudan, Sahel, and beyond have left millions displaced, hungry, and vulnerable. The architectures of the global peace has been under severe pressure, unseen since the Second World War. Institutions designed to prevent conflict and uphold human dignity are tested as never before. It is frustrating that the defense budget is skyrocketing while development cooperation is shrinking. Global military spending has reached unprecedented levels, 2.7 trillion US dollars in 2024, the highest since the Cold War. We have witnessed gross violations of human rights in various parts of the world. Children and most vulnerable are caught in the crossfire. Climate-driven disasters are compounding human suffering, deepening vulnerabilities, displacing communities, and straining already fragile systems. The very institutions we build to confront these global challenges are under immense strain. Confidence in multilateral frameworks is weakening. This is a clear and urgent call to reassess, strengthen, and revitalize our multilateral institutions and to fortify global solidarity and actions. Mr. President, let me highlight a few areas that deserve urgent global attention. First, peace and security. Beyond words, peace demands actions, it demands courage, and it demands the commitment. In these turbulent times, dialogue must triumph over hostility, diplomacy over conflict, and cooperation over divisions. We must take urgent and coordinated actions to prevent conflict, uphold justice, and foster inclusive development. It is incumbent upon us to address the root causes of the conflicts, including poverty, inequality, and marginalizations. Second, we must strengthen multilateralism and rebuild trust. Multilateral institutions must deliver not just promises, but results. They must be representative, transparent, and accountable. In this interdependent world, no single nation, however rich and powerful, can resolve global problems alone. We must uphold multilateralism for fostering global cooperations and coordinations. We must repose our trust in multilateralism, anchored in sovereign equality, territorial integrity, and national independence. Third, accelerating the implementations of the 2030 Agenda is critical. As the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals is far off track, the world must act with greater urgency and solidarity. We strongly call for the timely and effective implementations of the Compromiso de Sovia. Sustainable investment must be boosted to deliver on our promises. Development assistance is critical for making progress in sustainable development. We appreciate the developed countries that meet the ODA target and strongly urges others to fulfill the commitment. We must make development finance adequate, easily accessible, predictable, and aligned with national priorities. Institutional and human capacity support tailored to the needs and priorities of the countries, particularly in the global south, should be prioritized. We must reform trade systems to be fair, to be inclusive, and to be responsive to the developing countries. It is incumbent upon us to address the debt burdens facing by many developing countries. Debt relief, including debt restructuring and debt swap, should be scaled up to ease debt distress. Priorities should be given to inclusive development. We must invest in youth and promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls. The rights, safety, and dignity of migrant workers must be fully respected and protected. Fourth, climate justice and climate actions. Climate change has disproportionately affected vulnerable populations such as low-income communities and developing nations. Nepal is deeply concerned about the disproportionate impact of climate change, particularly in the mountain regions. We have first-hand experience of glaciers melting in our Himalayas that are seriously threatening the lives and livelihoods of millions downstreams. To discuss the climate crisis and chart out the way forward, we convened the Sagarmatha Samvad, that is Mount Everest Dialogue, in May this year under the theme Climate Change, Mountains and Future of Humanity. The Samvad adopted the Sagarmatha call for action, reaffirming our shared commitment to the Paris Agreement and 2030 Agenda. Nepal is proud to be among the few countries to have submitted our third nationally determined contributions, NDC 3. By 2035, we aim to reduce emissions by nearly 27% and expand renewable energy eightfold. Excellencies, as the world confronts a climate catastrophe, we must act with urgency and resolve. This is not a crisis of emissions. It is a crisis of equity, of survival, and of justice. Nepal calls for urgent, fair, and ambitious actions to protect vulnerable communities. Polluters may take responsibility with actions. We reiterate our call for scale-up, predictable, and accessible climate finance, technology transfer, and capacity building for countries on the front line, particularly the least developed countries and mountainous nations. The loss and damage fund must be capitalized, and biodiversity finance must be increased to match the scale of the crisis. Nepal urges the international community, especially developed countries, to demonstrate genuine solidarity and moral clarity by delivering on the ICJ advisory opinion and upholding their obligation to protect the climate systems. Fifth, digital transformations. Technology must be inclusive, secure, and right-based. We must narrow the digital divide within and among countries to create a peaceful and equitable society. Nepal advocates for a global digital cooperation framework that ensures access to infrastructures, digital literacy, and data protections for all. Technology transfer must be accelerated and scaled up. Finally, the United Nations must be reformed to reflect the present-day realities. Focus should be laid on coherence, coordinations, and accountability across the UN development system. We need to prioritize LDCs and LLDCs across all global commitments and partnerships. The UN 80 initiative offers a timely opportunity to renew our collective commitment to a more inclusive, transparent, and effective multilateral systems. Nepal supports the reform of the United Nations Security Council to make it more representative, transparent, and accountable. The review of the ECOSOC and the high-level political forum this year presents an important moment to enhance their effectiveness, coherence, and the impact in delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals. Similarly, Nepal supports the ongoing peace-building architecture review. This is an opportunity to enhance synergy, streamline efforts, and drive results where they matter the most. We also underline that the global financial architecture must meet today's realities. Mr. President, the global community has time and again reaffirmed its determinations to tackle challenges before us. And we have shown that we can achieve more when we act in genuine partnership, when we choose collaborations over confrontations, and when we replace disagreements with dialogue, and we are committed to peace, prosperity, and sustainable future. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, for 8 decades, the United Nations has stood as a beacon of hope for peace, for justice, for human rights, and for development. Today, that legacy calls upon us more urgently than ever. The world watches us at a moment of great trial. Let us stand together, united and determined to ensure enduring peace and prosperity in the world. When the United Nations succeeds, humanity as a whole succeeds. When it falters, it is the innocent and vulnerable who bear the heaviest cost. Let this 80th anniversary remind us of our shared duty to safeguard peace, to uphold justice, to protect human dignity, and to build a world that is fairer, safer, and more human for all. Nepal stands firmly committed to doing its part in shaping a safer, more prosperous, and more sustainable world. I thank you.
I thank the Chair of Delegation of Nepal.